Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Ranking Member. I think it's been a good hearing so far. I think we have a lot of information that will be reassuring to the American people. One thing I do object to, though, is it's something that's happened for years since I've been a member of this committee, and that's somehow to list political contributions and suggest that somehow they make an individual suspect or not qualified. My dear friend from Rhode Island showed a poster and showed some contributions and suggested that based on those contributions from companies like Southern Company, for example, who's contributed to my campaign, that his appropriateness for the job should be challenged. And so I'm glad that the chairman had added to the record this article from September 6 from the Wall Street Journal, September 6 of last year, pointing out that Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton raised significantly more money than Donald Trump from the oil and gas industry. Individuals who work for oil and gas companies donated $149,000 to Mr. Trump's GOP campaign as of the date of July 30, compared with $525,000 to Mrs. Clinton. Mr. Chairman, I'm glad you put this in the record, and presumably based on that argument, Hillary Clinton would be suspect were she to have been nominated for the position of heading the EPA. Now, Mr. Attorney General, let's talk about states as partners. And I enjoyed your exchange with Senator Cardin about the Chesapeake Bay program. As I understand, you actually applaud the Chesapeake Bay program, and particularly the way the EPA worked with states as partners. Is that correct? And could you enlarge on that?
Senator, I absolutely applaud the effort by the states to join together in a 6-state coalition to address the quality of the Chesapeake Bay's water quality. I mean, that's what we did in Arkansas. Oklahoma and Arkansas did with the scenic Illinois River that's already been talked about with Senator Bozeman and others. And so I think the effort that they engaged in was something that other states ought to model, and the EPA came alongside and took that TMDL and is providing assistance to those 6 states with respect to that agreement.
Now, with regard to the Clean Power Plan and the Waters of the United States rules, where did those regulations go wrong in this respect?
Well, with respect to the Clean Power Plan, in the cases, the Supreme Court has actually said it was an unprecedented step that the Supreme Court took. Never in history had the Supreme Court issued a stay against a rule like the Clean Power Plan. And they did so because of the likelihood of success on the merits, in the sense that the Clean Power Plan did not reflect the authority of Congress given to the EPA to regulate CO2. As an example, with respect to power generation, there has to be a significant finding that it poses risk to public health and welfare. They did not do that. They did not go through the proper processes of inside the fence and regulations of facilities, power generation facilities. So those matters, Senator, are about rule of law, and the same is true with the Waters of the United States rule.
Now, you know, and I have not delved into this as an attorney as you have, but I can tell you that the Department of Environmental Quality in my state told me very emphatically that the Clean Power Plan would put us out of business because we would not have had an alternative to the coal that we use, and so I hope we can continue to make progress on this issue. Let me ask you about wood products. Federal government buys a lot of lumber, uses a lot of wood in construction, and procures a lot of wood. There are standards certifying that the forests are appropriate. One is the American Tree Farm System. Another is the Sustainable Forestry Initiative. EPA seems to like a certification program called the FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council. Problem is, with this certification program, it excludes 90% of the lumber grown in the United States of America. We have had a lot of activity on both sides of the aisle in challenging this, and I object also to a so-called interim recommendation made by EPA in this regard. As far as I'm concerned, it is discrimination against domestic wood, and now they have come back and told us that this interim recommendation is under review. Could you comment about both of these, the idea of an interim recommendation being imposed on an entire industry, and also give us any thoughts you have about using the Forest Stewardship Council certification model as opposed to these other perfectly good sustainable forestry initiative and American Tree Farm system?
And if I could ask you to do it briefly as the senator's time.
Senator, as you and I discussed in our meeting, I'm very concerned about the latter issue and making sure that all voices, all options are considered is something the EPA administrator should do, and I would seek to do if confirmed. With respect to the interim step, I think that there is a concern that many have offered throughout the last several years that regulators in Washington, not just the EPA, are seeking to use guidance or other steps to avoid what would be called formal rulemaking that Congress has obligated those agencies to perform to ensure exactly what you just described, that all voices are heard. And that's unfortunate when agencies do that because that's an abuse of the process.
Thank you, sir.